Welcome to the Firehouse Roundtable podcast, brought to you by the Ventura Fire Foundation. My name's Peter McKenzie. I'm one of the hosts. I'm a retired fire captain with the City of Ventura Fire Department.
And I'm Jason Kay. I'm an active fire captain also with the Ventura Fire Department.
And we are excited that you are going to spend some time with us at the kitchen table, learning about firehouse issues that we're trying to bring awareness to.
Thanks for joining us as we discuss the issues of being a firefighter, both on and off duty, and how it affects us.
Let's get right to it.
Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. But I would just appreciate it if you'd move your ass. Charge the line. Charge the line. Hey, look at that. We got some water. Yeah, hi, 911. Do you have anybody else you can send?
All right, welcome to another episode of the Firehouse Roundtable. We have a super exciting episode today with over 1 million followers on all of his social media accounts. I've been a follower of his for over 6 years, and he doesn't need an introduction because his mustache makes it for him. Today, we're going to get to go behind the mustache a little bit with Firefighter Fenton and Mrs. Firefighter Fenton. So welcome to the show, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited to have you. Like I said, we're going to get to go with some of the behind the scenes footage of Firefighter Fenton. And your first name and last name for today.
My first name is Brent Fenton. I'm the guy that used his real name like an idiot. But
So Firefighter Fenton, let's talk about how you became a firefighter, and then how you guys met as a couple. Your wife's on with us today, and obviously she's the boss. And then eventually how you became the man behind the mustache.
So I'm born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. Come from a family of law enforcement. My dad did 26 years with Phoenix PD, and two of his brothers were also police officers, and I was gung-ho to be a cop. And they told me, you should go be a fireman because everybody loves firemen. And when they wave at you with all their fingers. And so, I went on some ride-alongs with some of his friends that were firefighters at the time. And my first ride-along, I always say, was the ultimate bait and hook, or bait and switch, I should say, because I went on the ride and we ran nothing but just exciting things: car accidents, stabbing, shooting. We had a house fire, all this stuff, all the craziest things. And then I was like, I'm in 100%. And then I get hired and I realized that doesn't happen every single shift. And, we didn't wipe one butt. We didn't pick one person up off the ground. We didn't do any of that on that ride.
That was a bait and switch. They got you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. And my wife and I met in 2007 is when we started dating. We were actually, we both play the guitar and sing, and we're very involved in our church. And we were leading worship. And at the time, she was leading for the high school group and I was leading for the junior high group. And they were two separate services. They ended up putting them together. And then when they put them together, that was kind of when I was like, hey, who is that chick? And that's how our paths crossed. And then I bait and switched her.
Yeah, nice. So let's talk about your wife. You guys met at church, but you're kind of both involved in the healthcare industry. Stephanie, you want to go ahead and talk about how you got into that, and if you guys ever run into each other, if you met during any EMS stuff, or is that later on?
Yeah, it's so funny because a lot of the couples we know that are nurses and firefighters met in the ER or at the hospital, but we did not. I didn't even work in his area for a long time. So we met at church. He already was a firefighter on the job. I think he was in medic school. And I was in school to be a nurse. So that was ironically just like a side thing we had in common. It was really just, I don't know, we were just attracted to each other with the music. And of course he was the big funny guy and made me laugh. And I just happened to be in nursing school, so we could sort of talk shop in that area. So I first was starting, after we did that very first video, My Knee Hurts Now, I was running into a lot of firefighters that recognized me, and I had no idea who they were. That one of my first jobs was in the ER, but it wasn't his area. So I really never saw him at work until much later. We saw each other a couple times at a different hospital, but it's funny, we have that in common, but we never really collide professionally in the career world.
Yeah, that was definitely my introduction to you guys, was that My Knee Hurts Now video. Is that what kind of made everything go viral? That was hilarious.
That was the one.
Yeah, definitely.
I got a question for you guys. Clearly, the whole the Firefighter Fenton thing is like a alter ego personality thing. How connected is that to Brent, the real Brent Fenton? Like, what are the correlations, if any?
From my perspective, 0.
Okay.
I think that's like maybe what he wishes he was. I don't know. No mustache, no accent. I don't think he's a salty bully. Maybe a little bit at work. I don't know. What do you think, Brent?
Well, the character is obnoxious, and I think you'd agree that I can be obnoxious.
Maybe that lines up, yeah.
That's the funny thing, is a lot of people will I've met people like specifically working with fire department copy. I've met some people that are in fire department copy, and we went and traveled one time, and I stayed in a room with a guy named Jake. And Jake said, man, I was really nervous coming to stay with you in an Airbnb, just me and you at this house for an entire week. Cause I'm just like, how am I going to survive a week with this guy? And then he was like, I was very relieved to find out that you are very different than your character. I was like, oh, well, I appreciate that. So, cause it truly is, it is a character. And I think like what you were going to ask, where did that character come from?
Yes. Yep.
So back in 2011 is when the Firefighter Fenton character kind of came about. I was with a crew, and my captain at the time, Captain Salati, he was a Jersey boy. He's from New Jersey, and ironically, he had a big mustache. He still has it to this day, and actually, his son is my backseat firefighter. His mustache isn't as glorious as his father's, but he's working on it. But so Captain Salati, he was the dad of the crew. We were the kids. We were always causing a ruckus, things like that, like firefighters do. And whenever he'd get fired up at us, that's when his Jersey accent would come out. And I kind of put a little twist on it. Mine's like more like Boston, Jersey-ish-esque, but he'd be like, knock it off, and so then we would, whenever he'd yell at us. And so then I just kind of created this character. And I always have a passion for comedy and video, and I loved making people laugh. And that character just kind of sprang out of that stereotypical salty firefighter that is just angry at the world. Nobody does it as good as he does. And then the voice and everything kind of fell in line with my captain at the time. So it was kind of a hat tip to him.
That's awesome. We have a couple of those firefighters on our department for sure. I think every department does.
Oh, yeah.
Has the character helped or hurt your real life career in the fire service?
Honestly, I think the character, I think it's helped, actually. It's definitely helped my department, which is kind of wild. It really put us on the map. People, especially here locally in Arizona, so my department borders the city of Phoenix on the north side, sorry. And people would, they'd be like, oh, where's that department at? And when I created that first My Knee Hurts Now video, and it kind of blew up, and in the first rendition of the video, you could see where I worked because I made it, put it on YouTube. It was for a department banquet, and it was on YouTube for the guys who were on shift, so they could see it, who couldn't come to it. And then overnight it blew up. Nobody knew it was going to turn into what it did. And I was just like, what just happened? So it definitely put the department on the map, because now people are like, oh my gosh, like we have a wildland team. Guys will go on wildfires all over the country, and they'll be like, wait, you work for that place? Oh, and I'll say, I work for Daisy Mountain is the name of our department. So they'd be like, Daisy Mountain? Oh my gosh, you work for Daisy Mountain? That's the guy. My knee hurts now. That's where Firefighter Fenton works, and it's been kind of cool. So I definitely think it has helped. I've only ran into a handful of people who don't enjoy the videos or they think it's a detriment to the fire service, and whatever, to each their own. I feel very fortunate that everybody that I work with has been very, very supportive, and they really enjoy it. And I think they actually get joy and excitement when people go, oh my gosh, you work for Daisy Mountain. And people are like, yeah, that's where I work. It's brought a lot of pride.
Do you ever cut into character at work? Like for jokes or fun?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Not all the time, but for sure, I'll be like, all right, morons, and that's the thing. It's like when the mustache comes on, it's like a light switch, and I'm in that mode.
I'll bet the rookies hear it from you.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not neglect Stephanie. So Stephanie, you also have your own similar, the Mrs. Firefighter Fenton. So kind of what's behind that? What are you trying to do? Give us the skinny on that.
Yeah, I mean, it mostly started, I literally said to Brent one day, man, I should have a page just so I could comment and make fun of you for being such an idiot on here.
That's like all wives for us, right?
Yeah. Didn't necessarily want my own personal page, getting out there or whatever, or people knowing who I was and seeing all our kids and stuff. But he's like, oh, you should definitely just make a page, because everything he'll ever post, every video or meme I see, I just something pops into my head, and it's always about him, and I don't know. I think it would be funny for people to see, they see the final edit of the video, but what I see behind the camera is him looking absolutely ridiculous, like, yelling at himself into a screen with a coffee cup. I don't know. It's just funny. So I just mentioned it, and he was like, oh, you should do that. I think people would like it. And people have definitely liked it. I think it's hilarious.
Is it gaining traction? Have you, what's come out of it?
Yeah, it's, I don't remember when I first started it. Was it like a year or two ago? And the Facebook page actually got shut down by the Facebook police for bullying. So I didn't have access to the page.
For bullying your husband?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's
she was doing it right. She was doing it right because somebody reported it for bullying. Yeah,
that's
somebody
great.
reported it for bullying, and
So it was gaining a lot of traction, and then it was just frozen for a long time, and then finally, I think the beginning of this year, the page they finally just deleted the whole page, so I was able to start a new one and restart it, and then it gained all the traction right back again. It was fun to. I went out to FDIC with him, so it was fun to kind of talk about that leading up to it, and then meet some people there. And I actually had fans that wanted pictures with me and not just him, and I thought that was hilarious.
That's funny, yeah. So obviously it started off as kind of slapstick humor thing. Where do you see it going? Because clearly you have a platform now, and I'm sure your mind is spinning on like, where's this going? What are the opportunities? What can you do? Talk a little bit about that. And I got some follow-up questions on that one too.
Honestly, like you said, it all started by accident. And so I have been I feel like in that mode for literally since 2011 of where is this going? And I was just making videos. I didn't understand, and I'll freely admit it, when I made the first video back in 2011, I didn't really understand social media, it definitely wasn't what it was today. It was very early in the stages of what all the platforms were or whatever. Some of them that I'm on now didn't even exist. So yeah, it kind of started off slow. I didn't realize that one, it had the power to reach the people that it did. Like I said, I was just making videos because I thought it was funny, and I liked making people laugh. And I made one video a year for like 7 years for that banquet. And every time I'd post a video, it would get a bunch of views. People would comment on it, and I was like, well, that was fun. See you again next year, And it wasn't until 2018 where I was challenged to be consistent and do it instead of the long form comedy, short form comedy. And I talked to Stephanie and was just like, I'm thinking about, what do you think about this? And she said, I think you should go for it. And so I put out one piece of content a day for the whole month of December in 2018. And it just kind of exploded. And I just kind of kept consistently doing it. And obviously as our family has grown in size, it's become increasingly more difficult just with time, and that's just life. But where I see it going, I have a lot of dreams. Stephanie always says I'm a dreamer. It's the execution where that becomes difficult. And that's where I think she's awesome, that she's able to kind of help me clear my head and, focus instead of doing, 1,000 things mediocre, do a couple really well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. What do you think the connection to humor, comedy is in the fire service with maybe PTSD and offsetting some of the negative things that we see on a regular basis? Have you given much thought to that, or is that a path you've gone down with what you do?
Oh yeah, very, very much so. I actually had the opportunity to speak at the Hawaii Fire Chiefs convention back in December, and I spoke a lot about that. And just I always say, and Stephanie, I know that she can attest to this, like being an ER nurse and me being a paramedic, firefighter, when and firefighters in general, nurses, first responders in general, when people call us or when people come to see us, it's never a good thing. Very rarely is it a good thing. And so we got to be on our A game all the time. So we train religiously on everything. So when we walk into these chaotic scenes, when people say, "Oh, I rise to the occasion," it's not rising to the occasion. It's falling back on our training. And so when we come in there, we've been there before, and we're able to. I always view it as we're able to turn off the human being. Really, is what it is. We're turning off our human being. We're turning off our emotions and our feelings, and we become very task oriented. We have that sick or injured child, a family member who's in cardiac arrest, and the chaos that's going on in the scene around us. We're able to block all that out and have that problem in front of us, and it's no longer an injured child or a sick person or whatever. It's a problem, and I have the skill set to fix it. I'm going to do that, and we're able to do that. We perform highly well at it. We function very, very well at doing that. And then where I see the issues with the PTSD or the issues with just the trauma is where we have a hard time turning the human back on and processing the emotions and things like that. And so people in general struggle, with coping and what do they do with all this stuff they just saw, and they have a hard time turning their human being back on. And that's when they become very numb and callous, and they just feel like, empty. And so that's kind of what I've observed. And I feel like what humor does is humor is very human. Like, it breaks down barriers. It creates trust. It makes you vulnerable. And it's a tool that every single person has. Everybody has a sense of humor, and everybody's able to laugh. And when you laugh, it does everything, like, emotionally and physically. There's actual physical things that happen in your body that humor brings out. And it's just an opportunity for you. Obviously, we see dark humor. We all have dark humor. But it's a way that we process what we see and we do. And it makes you feel, I say, like, again, human, and feeling human is feeling normal.
Gotcha. No, well said. Do you have, my mind's going 100 different directions, but do you feel an obligation just simply because of the fact that you have this platform that you can use it for good with some of those issues that you're talking about? But it also is weird because, like, if you start making humor about PTSD, like, that might not jive with your audience either.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you struggle with that, or is that somewhere you're trying to go with it, or have you considered that?
I don't think I necessarily struggle with it. I will say I do feel, and Stephanie and I have talked about this, like, I do feel a responsibility with my platform. Like, I respect my platform. I respect my followers. Anything that has happened with me because of social media, any opportunities that I've experienced or had, has all come from people who have validated the stuff that I've done. The people who liked the videos, watched it, shared it, all those things. If it wasn't for them, none of this would exist. Nobody would know who Firefighter Fenton was and all that kind of stuff. And so everything that I do is on purpose. I was laughing because you were saying, our show is family friendly, and I love that. That's my platform is always family friendly. It's on purpose. I like my platform to be an escape for people. We all need a place that we can go to just debrief and relax. And so from my platform in particular, I keep everything light. I keep everything just engaging, light, relatable, and just able to laugh at ourselves. I don't ever really dive specifically into anything like you said, that'd be really difficult waters to tread if I was making light of, like, PTSD or anything like that. But, like, we're definitely able to I keep it light. But that being said, outside of that, I love to talk to people about the family unit. Like, I'm very passionate about a strong family unit and just, your priorities in life.
Yeah, I think you're blessed because you have the platform, and the what you do with that responsibility matters, right? Like,
for sure.
Not necessarily like you don't have to do a video about it, but, like, you have a platform, and there are issues in the fire service that we're all trying to bring awareness to. But I want to hone in on what you said there at the end on how important the family unit is. And you mentioned family multiple times. And one of our focuses of our foundation, because if you look at firefighter mental health, it is so broad and it can encompass so many different things, from like sleep deprivation and addiction and alcohol abuse and, marital issues. Like, it's pretty broad, and it's hard for us as a foundation to go, what are we going to focus on? Because we can't focus on it all. Otherwise, like you were saying, like if you're a dreamer, which I'm a little bit similar, you lack focus, right? You have all these things you want to do, but you can't execute on any of them unless you have that person, which maybe it sounds like it's your wife, which is awesome. But we have kind of the same struggle in the foundation, and it is, what are we going to focus on? And kind of where we're landing, and we're not fully there yet, is not necessarily focusing on the firefighters' mental health. Not that we're against it, because that's not the case at all. But we are landing on the family that's at home while you're away working, and the struggle that the family at home has, and what the nuances are that they're dealing with, that quite honestly, I didn't fully understand until I retired from the fire department and started living back in my home full time, which sounds crazy to say because I always lived there. I was just gone half the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we want to focus on. And I'm interested in Stephanie's perspective on that, because we've had wives on the podcast, and it takes up a lot of the conversation with the nonprofit work we do, is how can we support wives? What are the struggles? And we have a pretty good idea, but we're always looking for real world input from wives at home who are struggling, or not necessarily struggling, but the things that are challenges. Yeah. So Stephanie, let's give you the floor. Tell us what you got on this topic and help educate us on this topic.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's definitely a struggle sometimes. And, I think the biggest thing for our family is the job is important, and it's our source of income. It's our livelihood, but also we don't build our lives upon the job. Our lives don't revolve around his job. Obviously, it affects our schedule and just our day-to-day life, but we're very intentional. And I think Brent does a really good job at this too, of creating a life outside of the job and making community for ourselves. We're lucky that we have a lot of family close by, both of our sides. We both grew up in Arizona, and all of our family pretty much has remained here. But besides that, it's like, what have you been on the job? Like 19 years now. We've been married 13 years now. It's been some trial and error, but we've discovered, like, I have to create a community for myself separate than whatever he's got going on. So obviously my family, but also just friends. And we've gotten into homeschooling lately. So the last couple of years of friends, just something separate that can be a support system, that can know me and know us, that could be there for me when he's gone 2-3 days, 1-2 weeks at a time, and I'm going insane, because it's very easy, I think, for the wives, or at least for me, very easy to build up like almost like a bitterness, like, why am I here alone all the time?
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous because he's out there providing for our family, and so I think it's been time, but just coming to understand each other, to understand he's not like super glad that he's gone, because I hear that in my mind sometimes, like, you get a break. You get to go to work and get a break and sleep alone in your own bed, and which is silly because, half the time he's not sleeping, and he would much rather be home in the chaos we have going on here than be away from us and the other chaos he's got going on at work. So it's understanding each other. It's not a competition who had a worse day, who slept less. Bringing those things to the forefront in our mind and understanding we're on the same team. We're not fighting each other. It's not like you've left me here alone with 4 children to homeschool.
Yeah. What tips and tricks can you share with our listeners on building that community? Like, what did you do to build, other than obviously your family is probably a pretty built-in support, but outside of that, what tactical steps have you taken to build that support structure around you, that maybe a new firefighter that comes on has a wife or a girlfriend who's struggling with that?
That's hard. It depends on what stage of life we happen to be in at the time, and just what we're naturally drawn to, whether it's sports, whether it's a church group or homeschool stuff. But more in a kind of a weird way, I've just sort of identified people. It's almost like dating as an adult, but for friends. You're like, look around and see, who do I seem to have something in common with, or that we're just naturally around each other more often? And being intentional, even if it's weird. I think it's easier for women than men, but kind of going out of my way to say, hey, do you want to get some coffee sometime? Or, hey, our kids, do the same thing. Maybe we should have a play date, or, I don't know, whatever it is, in whichever community you find yourself, like being intentional and purposeful of finding people and just kind of going after it. And it is kind of weird. And you could face some, difficulties with building friendships, but yeah, just finding people.
You're saying a lot of things that we hear over and over again from therapists we've had on and other wives as well. You have to really think about who you can help, who you can relate with, and then, groups that are around there. And my wife is kind of the same way, where she seeks other women out, especially the newer members of the fire departments, spouses and girlfriends, and kind of sees where the needs are and meets them there. I want to circle back a little bit to something Peter asked Brent. I'll ask you the same thing. So he's the dreamer and you're the executor. Where do you see the Firefighter Fenton thing going? And then how much do you assist with that? I guess I'll call it a business, right? I'm sure Firefighter Fenton is a business at this point. How much are you involved in that too?
It's kind of turned into that a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like he said, it really started as just a random, thing that he didn't really plan on making any sort of, plans for or have it grow. But it has been really interesting, and it's really changed things for both of us as it's gotten bigger, because he all the time has people that either message him or reach out, or when we see them in person, that say again and again all these stories about, I had a terrible night. You really helped me get through that night. My husband has been in bed with cancer treatment for weeks, and we just sit in bed and watch your videos all day, and it brings laughter and joy. Like, I can't tell you how many of those stories he's gotten from people messaging him, just like expressing their gratitude. And it's weird because he started it for himself, just thought something was funny and he'll make a video. So as it's gotten more of like sort of like a business and he has more opportunities, I see a lot of pressure on him to perform. And I think it when he gets the stress on him to put content out or meet X amount of whatever, that really stifles his creativity, and it makes it into a job, which is really, it's not fun anymore. And it becomes a stressor. So I think for me, I try really hard to support him in reminding him why he started and why he's even doing this, and to continue to make things that he thinks is funny, because everyone else will think that's funny as well. People enjoy watching him enjoy himself. Not sitting back and looking at the numbers and wondering why something didn't get enough views and how can I change something to get more views. That's really not what it's about. Like, just make stuff you think is funny, because people relate to that and they remind him of that constantly.
Yeah, those are some cool unplanned benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, I'm Austin Folk, an engineer with the Ventura City Fire Department. I'm also on the board of the Ventura Fire Foundation, an organization that supports firefighters and their families. The foundation produces this podcast as part of our mission. I work with the foundation because I was witness to the help that it was able to provide to my family. The foundation needs your help. First, please subscribe and rate this podcast on your podcast platform. This helps us get a higher ranking and more visibility for the show. Second, if you support the podcast and the foundation's work, please consider donating. Every dollar helps us support firefighters and their families. There's a link in the show notes where you can donate through the website at www.venturafirefoundation.org. Thank you for listening.
Where do you guys get content? Because I see a lot of the Firefighter Fenton stuff is commenting on other videos, right? And making light of some of the other stuff. I like some of those ones where you hammer guys for what they're doing tactically. Those are always funny, and just some of the viral stuff that goes out.
I have different types of content, and and it's funny because you can look at, like, I can sit there and look at my content and the type of content that is coming out at certain times. I can tell if I was overwhelmed at the time or if it was whatever. And honestly, sure, like those videos where you see something, not going ideal, and I'm like pretending like I'm there and I'm like chiming in and making it funny or doing whatever and just like poking fun. A lot of those people would just send me like, oh my gosh, did you see this video? And I'm like, oh man, I could make a video where like it almost looked like I was there. And I kind of got into a zone of where I was like only doing that. And And I also had to do some soul searching on some of those because I'm also like, I don't want to be the guy who's like, because I'm not like armchair quarterbacking. I'm not throwing shade, that kind of stuff. I'm just honestly just trying to make a funny video. And nobody's safe. Like I have done those videos with my own department. Like there is a video that it's my own department. And those guys who are there are like, when I made that, they're like, you freaking jerk. When I did it, and I was like, nobody's safe, you know? Like, so,
That's
but
great.
A lot of that stuff. That's where a lot of those came in. And honestly, when I was making those videos a lot more frequently was really, was when we had young babies and time to sit down and write creatively was just not there. And that was just, it was easier for me to make a quick video like that, which was still funny. But it was just easier where like the music videos, the things that I do, that kind of stuff, or the original content ideas require a significant amount of time to just sit down and write. And I do a lot I'm constantly thinking and I mean, people always ask, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, I just pay attention a lot on shift or just in life in general. And when I hear somebody's like for instance, I'll say something like, oh man, I did this. And somebody's like, oh my gosh, I did that too. And another guy's like, I did that too. And I'm like, that's something. So if I did it and so did these other two people, there's a lot of other people doing it. So I'll write it down. Or if I hear somebody complaining or angry about something, I'll write that down too. Because I've found over time that there's a fine line between like just straight anger and comedy, because there are things that like in the moment, you can't see beyond what's happening right there and you're just seeing red. But somebody who's outside looking in sees it and is just watching somebody lose their mind. It's funny. And then if you could pull yourself out of that moment and kind of look at it from like that 30,000 foot level and go, man, that is funny. So I'm able to like recreate those moments. And then when you see it, you go, oh my gosh, that's totally me. Or, oh, that's so-and-so. And so that's kind of where those come from.
Do you see Firefighter Fenton, the brand, the business, outlasting your career in the fire service and or replacing your career in the fire service?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Because I do see it outlasting for sure. I think it's even so much bigger than I even know, because it seems like Stephanie said, I get messages from people all the time talking about how my videos have helped them, where my videos met them in their path of life, and in the spot, the areas that they were where they just, it made them smile and helped them through a really tough time. Having grown men who have been through things I can't even imagine. I mean, including like 9/11 survivors, these guys that have seen these horrible things and have severe PTSD, and they're breaking down and crying, giving me a hug, saying, give me a minute. They walk away and they come back an hour later and they're like, sorry, I just wanted to tell you I was a survivor. This was a few years back at FDIC. A gentleman came up and he started talking to Jason and I, and he just started crying and he walked off. And then he came back and he just said, I'm sorry about that. He's like, I just wanted you guys to know that I was a survivor of 9/11. I lost countless brothers there and saw these horrible things. He's got PTSD. He's since retired. And he just said, your videos helped me through some very, very dark times. And watching your videos reminds me that there's light after a dark day, kind of thing. And that every tough time does get better. It just takes time. And your videos helped. And I'm just like, man, that just blows my mind. And then it just, every time I meet somebody and they say something, it just reminds me like, wow, this is so much bigger than I ever thought it could ever get. And it's bigger than I even think it is now. And I do see it outlasting me. I think it would be amazing if something was to happen where I was able to replace my career.
Let's talk about that. So when I said that, I saw you like lit up a little bit and you were like, oh man, I wish I could do that. And Stephanie's same thing from her, right? Like, and that is a very common thing in the fire service today, right? Like it's not, I don't know what it's like in Arizona necessarily, but the fire service where we're at, it's not the same as when Jason and I got hired on. Like it's busier. There's more demands on you. The fire seasons are longer, more intense. You're way more. There's people that are well into their career. I left at 20 years who are like, if I could do something else, I probably would. It's not that I don't like the fire department. It's not that I don't like the fire service. It's there's a real toll that you're sacrificing a lot by being a firefighter. It's mainly time away from your family, some health issues, some mental health issues related to stuff we see. So just let's dig a little deeper on that. Like when you were lit up about, I wish it could replace the fire service income, or just expand on that a little bit if you don't mind, because I think there's a lot of people that, and a lot of wives specifically. In fact, I've had multiple conversations with them because I kind of did it myself. So yeah, let's talk about that.
I'll let Brent answer, but I will say, we've talked about our children growing up. We were like, I hope none of them become a firefighter or a nurse, which is sad. I mean, it's been really great for our family, but we've definitely thought those thoughts.
So, yeah. So like you said, it did light up. I love the job. I love being a firefighter. I love the camaraderie. I love the guys that I work with. I love everything about the job, but at its basic core, just stripped down level, it is what I do for money. This is how I support my family. There is a lot of inherent risks that come with that. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes with that. A lot of that, like you said, our bodies, our health, our mental stuff, the time with our family, and that's stuff that you don't get back. But it does also grant opportunities. We have a lot of time off like most other jobs don't have, where I do get to spend more time. My department does 48.96, so 2 days on and I get 4 days off with my family. So it does give me those things. But when I like you said, the job has definitely changed. You know, in my career, I've seen, which now it's heartbreaking and maddening to see countless of your friends die that you worked with from job-related cancer, and it's happening, and it's scary. And honestly, it's scary. And like you said, I love the job. I'm proud to do it. I love helping people. I want to always help people. But that being said, if I was to have a career-ending injury tomorrow, I know the job doesn't love me back. And that's not any disrespect to anybody else. I just know that I'm a position, and when I'm out, the next guy steps right in, and there's a captain promotion, and then there's a engineer promotion or a firefighter promotion. We're hiring, and then the machine keeps right on going. And I'm in the history of that department, and life keeps moving on. And so I think about it a lot. And I think about, like you said, the sacrifice and all those things and all the stuff that we deal with. We see a lot, like when Stephanie said, we talk a lot about like, man, I wish I hope my kids don't become this, because you guys have seen, we've all seen the darker side of life, the unfortunate, the terrible, tragic things that we see, we experience it happen. And I don't think anybody would wish that on their children, to have to see that, you know what I mean? And have to experience that, and not to play a victim card or anything like that, because I'm not doing that. That's just real. It is what it is. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't concerned about the exposures. I've got almost 20 years on now, and I have a 3-year-old, and I think the biggest thing is like, benefits. I got to have benefits for my family. And so like my plan right now is to go another 18 years, which is mind boggling, but just the way our pensions are and all that kind of stuff, that's the plan. But that's another 18 years of beating up my body, exposures, all that stuff.
I equate it to, you're a professional athlete as a firefighter, a very low paid professional athlete. Like, we're not making LeBron James money here, but you are a professional athlete. And the second you are no longer able to perform as a professional athlete, it's gone. You're out. Like, blow your hip out and not be able to come back. Like, you won't have a job. Right. So my like personal thing that I try to impress on the guys is, you need a plan B.
Yep.
You need a plan B, because you are literally one step off the engine away from no longer being a fireman, right? And that's hard for a typical fireman to grasp, because for most firefighters, this is everything they've ever wanted, and it is their life. And, there's some imbalance there. Like, their whole life revolves around the fire service, which I think is also risky. But you are an example of like, there's a plan B here for you. I don't know, like, I'm sure you've had those conversations on like, what is the opportunity in front of me? How can I potentially monetize it in a stable way that's going to provide benefit, all the things you're concerned about. But I think that's awesome that you even have that optionality. Like, it's there for you because of what you built, because of all the things you've done.
Right.
But I think it's an important conversation in the fire service, because people have died of cancer. Suicide's a thing. Like, career-ending injuries are a thing. And I think we could do a better job at, promoting options for the guys.
Yeah, I say that all the time. So back in 2015, I went down to our academy as a mentor. And that was a big thing that I'm passionate about with like the new people that come in. I say it to my new firefighters that I get now as a captain. And I talk to the probationary guys and tell them, and even my guys that got time on, like, don't get it twisted. Remember, like, this is a great job. You should be good at it. You should be proud of it, but it is what you do for money. And remember that, like, I am Brent. I am a husband, a father, like my identity is in, my relationship with Jesus Christ, my wife and my children. That is my identity. And then I happen to be a firefighter on the side. And I also happen to wear a fake mustache and make videos on the internet. But again, my identity is also not in Firefighter Fenton, because I know that could also go away at the drop of a hat. And if that was to go away, or the fire department goes away, my world doesn't crumble. And you see that in all aspects of life, where I tell these guys, like, look, here's the deal. Remember, you're married to your wife. You're a father to your children. You're a friend. You're a brother. You're a son. You're all these things. You happen to be a firefighter. You're not the firefighter who happens to be married, who happens to have kids, who happens to have all this kind of stuff. Because and we've seen it, like you said, divorce and all these things, when guys have it twisted and they are just eat, sleep, breathe, fire department. One, like you said, you have that career-ending injury. Now, what's my identity? Who am I? Where am I? And then also, or let's say you don't have that and you retire and you've made your entire life the fire department, and now it's just you and your wife in a house that's empty because the kids have all grown up, and now you're like, we don't know each other, and they get divorced, that kind of thing. So it's just, you've got to have that.
How often do you see that too? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll tap into kind of what Peter said, and also just I see that you have the entrepreneurial mindset. So what are your other businesses? Because I see your fire department coffee shirt on. I know you're involved with that as well. Do you have other businesses? When did you get involved in FTC, Fire Department Coffee, first of all? And did you partner up with Jason? Was he the original guy? How did that go? And then what other businesses are you involved in?
Yeah. So like I said, my whole video thing kind of started back in 2011 by accident. Jason, it's funny, we actually talking about Jason's like, I saw my knee hurts now. I thought that was hilarious. And then he started making videos. He was much smarter than I was, because he just was consistent from the get-go. And I think he started making videos in like 2014 or 15. Him and I had talked a couple times here and there through there. He met Luke, who is the founder and CEO of Fire Department Coffee, in 2017, I believe. And they had met. Luke had reached out, said, hey, would you be interested in doing some videos? Jason started doing videos. That relationship grew. And it ended up turning into a business relationship where Jason became the vice president of Fire Department Coffee. And then kind of through social media and videos and talking over the years, and Jason and I collaborating here and there, in 2020, Jason reached out and said, like, I think it would be awesome if you joined our team with Fire Department Coffee. And so talked it over with Stephanie. They flew me out for a video shoot. I always say that was our first date, because they didn't know me. I didn't know them. Jason and I had never met in person, and we were like, we're going to see how this goes. And went out to Illinois. It was in February of 2021. It was freaking freezing. It was like -10 or something. We find ourselves at one point, one day, the temperature was warm. It was 17. There was a break in the snow, and we're spraying each other with hoses with water dyed green for a St. Patty's Day video. And the whole team and everybody involved in Fire Department Coffee were just awesome. And we hit it off, became like instant best friends. All of us just connected. And I flew home, and they called me that next day and said, hey, we want you on board. And I said, you know what, I'm in. And I talked to Stephanie and just said, there's just something, they pay me or whatever. But I said, even beyond that, I said, these are just good people. And this is a good thing. There's something different about it, and I want to do it. And so I jumped on board, and I've been with them. And then, I've got dreams of things that I would love to do with Firefighter Fenton and that whole, I mean, it really has turned into a brand. And then Stephanie she's an entrepreneur. She does a lot of stuff. I don't know, Dave, if you want to talk about some of the stuff that you've done.
Yeah, let's get into the IV company that you started, and we're waiting for some cookies to be sent. So go ahead and talk about your businesses that you got.
I don't know. I've always enjoyed just projects and creating and doing new things. So I'm kind of all over the board. I am not in the ER in the hospital anymore, which is a good move for our family. So I've started a mobile IV therapy business, which has kind of replaced my bedside nursing. So I was, in the field working, doing the house calls and everything with another company and also another storefront business for a while. So got experience there. But anyways, just decided to finally launch my own company. And I've loved it so far. Had a lot of support. It's just the flexibility and the schedule and, controlling our lives has just been great. And the job, the 48-96 hour schedule is really conducive to this type of life where we get to have adventures and create businesses and, just have a lot of flexibility in our time to do what we want when we want. So that business is going really well. The cookie thing, I was doing decorated cookies, sugar cookies, and had kind of a little baking business going on. That lasted a couple years. And that's super fun and I enjoy it, but also more like a hobby now. Can't spread myself too thin with homeschooling the 4 kids and the baking and the IV business. So I don't know. We just kind of bend and flex throughout the years, whatever stage we're in, and focus on whatever project we got going on then.
Awesome. Quick question. I'm assuming, Brent, you're not if you work a 48, we worked a 48-96, you're not getting mandated like 2 out of the 4 days all the time? Or are you guys off for the 4 days?
Yeah, we're very fortunate with my department. We do have, mandatory overtime, but it's very rare. And especially now, like me being promoted to captain and stuff, rarely do captains get mandatory, if ever. Rarely. There is a list, but I have never heard of a captain being mandatory. So yeah, you're pretty much able to get your 4 days off.
You're speaking to Jason's ears right now because the guy.
Let me know if you want to shift.
Like I said, I retired a couple of years ago, but they are absolutely getting hammered all the ranks, including all the way up to the battalion chiefs. So when you were saying Stephanie, you're like, oh, it's 48-96. It's easy to run my business because he's home every 4 days. That's not happening in our department. You're working your 48-96 plus 3 more days, and you're lucky if you get a day out. Is that accurate, Jason? Is that kind of how it looks right now?
Yeah, we're getting mandated a lot of our 4 days. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing that helps us not get mandated is that they always have active promotional lists. So like especially for captain, so if a captain overtime comes up and for some reason a captain doesn't take it, then they start calling on the list, and those guys on the list are chomping at the bit to get that front seat time and get that experience. Yeah. So then they also get paid captain wages at time and a half.
Gotcha.
When they get that. So they're like, yes, I'll take it. So It rarely comes to me.
You're fortunate for that. I want to circle back to one thing that you said. You said that you have some dreams for Firefighter Fenton. If you're open to sharing, what are we talking about?
Where's he going?
To the moon.
Perfect.
No, because space terrifies me. No, and Stephanie and I have talked about it, and great. Like family is very, very important to me. And like she got to experience it, at FDIC, people are coming up and their kids are like, they just love the videos. There's the skits that they have, they think is so funny and they want to take pictures with me and I'm signing stuff for them and there's all this stuff. And there's a healthy following. And I get messages all the time from people saying like when I did that video where I used that track where it was like beep, boop, boop, bop, and it has that song, people are like, oh my gosh, my kids just play that over and over and over. So I've got a healthy first responder family kid fan base. And so I would love to, I would love to write like a children's book. I would love to have that Firefighter Fenton character, something that is educational, but entertaining, like something that like, the kids would love it, but the parents can also stomach it. They're not like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like, and make videos that are targeted to teaching kids, but they're also entertaining to watch, where the parents can laugh, get it. There'll be some jokes that go, it's going to be clean, but it'll go right over the kid's head. But the parents are like, okay, that's funny, and things like that. So I have dreams of kind of having like a Firefighter Fenton kids thing. I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know how the execution looks, but that's kind of a dream that I've had, doing that. And then I've tossed around the idea of doing a podcast, Stephanie and us together, like the Fentons, just because I think there's a lot of value in what she has to offer, especially to the firewife community. I think she has a very unique perspective on things, and it's it's fun and it's crazy to say, but like, people just, they seem to want to engage with what we talk about, and we just, I don't know, we have fun, and if nothing else, it gives us an hour to be intentional having conversation with each other, and if other people want to hear what we talk about, it'd be great. But I know it takes an incredible amount of work, as you guys know.
Yes and no. So you can outsource a lot of the work for relatively inexpensive. So if you do want to go down that path, we'll dial you in with all the stuff we use for sure. I love what you're saying, because I think the opportunity that's in front of you is there's all these things that you strike chords with people in the fire service, first responder world. And in every one of those chords are issues that need to be addressed, things that you could do good with, that you could also leverage into a business. But I think where our foundation is probably going to land is on the spouses and the kids, the families that are back home, and which is right in line with like kind of where your head's going with this. So who knows, maybe there's an opportunity for collaboration on something down the road. Yeah. But this is where I think the future is for our foundation, is supporting that family and those kids. And, humor works, right? Like humor brings attention to these issues in a fun way that's engaging. And because honestly, some of these conversations aren't fun, right? Like some of these issues aren't funny at all. But if there's a way to like connect all the dots, I think there's an incredible amount of value that could be provided. But I applaud you for what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, there's no better feeling than when I create a video and I show the guys at work and they die laughing, and then I come home and my 9-year-old has the same belly laugh, and I'm just like, all right, it's connecting on all across the whole age range.
You got something there for sure. Do you guys enjoy, or do you, let me start by saying this. Do you guys get recognized when you're out by people who you don't know and you're not at like an FDIC event or anything like that?
Yeah, we do. We do. And that's how I know people are like a true fan, is when they can recognize me. She will actually get recognized easier than I will, because she doesn't wear a mustache. And people know her from...
Good thing, right?
Yeah. People know Stephanie from, my knee hurts now. And they're always like, how's your knee feeling? But,
that's good.
Are you seeing crossover outside of the fire service? Like in your town where you live, do people know who you are? Non-fire department people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we actually, crazy small world. Maybe we're being stalked. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. But we were at the airport. We were traveling. It's like, 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. We're getting off the SkyTrain at Sky Harbor, and this is during COVID. We have masks on. Me, Stephanie, our 4 kids, everybody's got a mask on. We get off, and there's a guy, he's wearing a traffic vest, and he works for the airport. And as I get off SkyTrain, he goes, Fenton. And I look over, and I was like, yeah? And I got a mask on. He goes, love the Instagram, man. Love your stuff. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. He's like, yeah, have a good day. Doors closed. He takes off. We travel. We come back. We go to church. We go to Chipotle afterwards. We're in the line at Chipotle, and this kid is standing in line behind us, and he's kind of like eyeballing. I see him like texting, doing this thing. He's looking, doing this whole thing. And I look at Steph, and I'm like, I think this kid's going to come up and say something. And he comes up and he's like, hey, excuse me, sorry to bother you. Are you Firefighter Fenton? And I said, yeah, man, how's it going? And he's like, oh my gosh, I knew it. He's like, do you mind if I get a picture with you? I was like, no, man, absolutely. Let's do it. So we take a picture. Super cool. We talk for a minute. He's like, hey, I got to say something. This is going to sound crazy. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. He goes, I promise I'm not stalking you. And I'm like, well, here we go. You're starting with that. What is this? He works at the movie theater next door. So he's wearing like a Harkin shirt or whatever. He goes, about a week ago at the airport, you got stopped getting off the SkyTrain. I was like, yeah. He goes, that was my brother. And I'm like, get out of here. And he goes, he was kicking himself that he didn't get a picture with you. And I was like, okay. He's like, I swear we're not stalking you. This is just so crazy. Such a small world. And mind you, like the airport is like 30 miles away from where we were at with this kid. Just wild. So it's crazy.
Do you keep a mustache with you all the time for instances like that, to take pictures with people?
I do have a mustache with me a lot, but no, not particularly. Usually I have a mustache because I'm like, oh, I got a video idea. Let me make this video. But Jason Patton gets recognized a lot more than I do, just because you can recognize that head anywhere and from any angle. And with me, I take that mustache off. It's like Clark Kent. I just blend into the crowd. So.
Well, this has been awesome. We thank you both for taking, an hour out of your day to spend with us. It's been funny, shocker. But I also enjoy the conversations surrounding the things that we're passionate about, which is this fire service issues that we're trying to make a difference in. But yeah, happy to, any last words or anything you want to share? We definitely need to give a plug to any of our listeners who don't know where to watch you. So you got to share how to figure out who Firefighter Fenton is, if they've been living under a rock or something. But if our people want to see what you're doing, what do they got to do?
Obviously, again, thank you for having us on here. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate everybody who's listening to us, and those that are fans, aren't fans, check us out. On any social media platform, you can find, just look up Firefighter Fenton. You'll be able to find me. And then with Stephanie, with Mrs. Firefighter Fenton, she's on Instagram and Facebook. So if you type that in there, you'll be able to find her. She also has a profile picture, looks very similar to mine, with a mustache, but she shaves. So, but yeah, so you can find us on there. And again, yeah, I just really appreciate you guys having us on here and taking the time to talk with us. And I really appreciate you including Stephanie on this, because she has a lot of great stuff to offer, a lot of value that she brings to the table. And, honestly, she's the value in Firefighter Fenton. She's the support system that I have, and she pushes me, she keeps me humble, and it's why I can do what I do.
100%. We couldn't claim to support the wives and the families without bringing her on either. So, Stephanie, any parting words from you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I am so open and happy to talk to any other wives out there that want to reach out. If you can find me on Mrs. Firefighter Fenton, but just find your community, build your community, and carve out time for your family. Time is the one thing you will never get back and you never have enough of.
That's great closing words. Yeah. I think eventually we're going to have a show with a bunch of the spouses and the wives on, and they could just talk trash about us the whole time. I think that's perfect. So I appreciate you guys being on also.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right. That was a good episode. That was it was good to see the human behind the character from my perspective.
Yeah, we talked about it before. We didn't know if he was coming in character or not. It was good to see the man behind the mustache and kind of have a big celebrity with a bunch of followers on our podcast.
Yeah, I was stoked that he brought his wife with him. And it's like all of us, right? Like our wives are the backbone. Like without them, you probably couldn't do the things you do. He's no different. And she's trying to build her own little persona as well, which is super cool. I love the conversation where we talked about the plan B for firefighters and how he kind of approaches it with the people, that work for him on his department. It's all relatively the same. I think the messaging is universal, but I thought that was an interesting part of it as well.
Yeah, I'd love to be out with him when she gets recognized and he doesn't, or she gets recognized before he does. But I always take snippets away, like you said at the end of the conversation. What I really liked that he said was, in order to go to work, we have to turn off being human. And then it's hard to turn it on again when we get home. And that really relates to a bunch of stuff that we've talked about with our foundation and some of those issues. And then him relating what he does with Firefighter Fenton, that he says humor is human.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's been scientifically proven what laughter does to you. And dopamine release and all kinds of good things happen. So I think there's definitely a connection between the work he's doing and the potential benefits to combat some of the issues we care about. So connecting those two is the tricky part, but which we talked about a little bit. What do we got coming up? I think we got the stair climb coming up on September 9th, Crown Plaza. So if anybody's interested in doing that, it's open to pretty much anybody that wants to climb, which is unique because a lot of the stair climb in Seattle that we go to is not. It's only for firefighters. So if you're interested in climbing the stairs, doing the 9/11 memorial thing with us at the foundation and the fire department, definitely sign up. Go to our website, venturafirefoundation.org. It's September 9th. We would love to see you there. We'd love to climb side by side with you. That's our next big event that's coming up. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, the foundation will be sponsoring that again this year with Will Knackers being the lead. Come suffer, climb the stairs with us on September 9th, the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb. Go to our website to sponsor it or become a climber. So we'll see you guys there.
I think it's 11 or 12 stories. It's not the size of the World Trade Center, I guess is what I'm getting at. So you don't just have to climb it once. You're going to climb it over and over and over again. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, when I did the stair climb on that thing a few years ago, I think it's just as hard, the down part, as the up part. It's not an easy thing. With Will Knackers leading it, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but it's really good for your knees on the way down. That's definitely a fact. No. Anyway, all right. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon.